What if one of the wealthiest, most powerful men in the world, a man who's changed the landscape of technology and philanthropy, walked into a homeless shelter? No announcement, no fanfare, just an unannounced visit. How would the people inside react? How would he react? Would he see the shelter's struggles firsthand? Or would it just be another day for him? Bill Gates, known for his massive philanthropic efforts, has often been seen as a figure who changes the world with his wealth. But today, we're about to see him do something entirely unexpected. He's about to walk into a homeless shelter, not for a photo op, but to listen, to connect. And what happens next will take you by surprise. In the next few moments, we'll show you how a simple, yet profound visit from Bill Gates to a place that often goes unnoticed can bring hope, change, and an emotional connection. Keep watching because this visit isn't just a moment of charity. It's a story about real people, real struggles, and one billionaire's genuine impact. This homeless shelter, like many others, is a place of refuge, a sanctuary for those who have nowhere else to turn. For some, it's a temporary stop on the road to rebuilding their lives. For others, it's a lifeline, a place where survival takes priority over all else. The shelter isn't just a roof over their heads. It's a community where people who have lost everything come together. It provides meals, a safe space, and the hope that things can improve. But it's also a place where the reality of homelessness is stark. The staff works tirelessly to provide comfort and support, but resources are always stretched thin. The donations, though appreciated, never seem to be enough. And still, the shelter stands strong. Its mission to provide for the most vulnerable. The staff, some of whom have been working here for years, know the faces of every resident. They know their stories, their struggles, and their dreams. They're not just here for a paycheck. They're here because they believe in the power of second chances. But despite all the hard work and heart invested, the shelter faces constant challenges. The number of people seeking refuge is growing, but the resources to help them are limited. There are always more mouths to feed, more beds to fill, and fewer donations than what's needed to sustain the work. And so, it's just another regular day at the shelter. As the evening hours roll in, little do they know, a surprise visit is about to change everything. Out of nowhere, the front doors of the shelter open. The usual noise of chatter and activity pauses for a moment, a stillness that signals something out of the ordinary. And there, standing in the doorway, is none other than Bill Gates. No entourage, no cameras, no press, just Bill Gates, walking in with the same quiet demeanor as any other person looking to volunteer or visit. The staff, a few of whom are already in the middle of their tasks, freeze. They look at each other, unsure if they're seeing things correctly. Is that really Bill Gates? The same Bill Gates who's worth billions? The same Bill Gates who's built one of the largest tech companies in the world? One of the shelter workers, clearly in disbelief, approaches him, her voice shaky. "Excuse me, sir, are you Mr. Gates?" He smiles warmly. "Yes, I am. I've come to see what you all are doing here. I'd love to learn more about how the shelter works and how I can help." The staff is speechless for a moment, trying to process the situation. But the disbelief quickly fades as they gather themselves. A few moments of awkward silence give way to a sudden burst of energy. They begin to introduce themselves, each person eager to share the heart and soul of the shelter's work. Bill listens intently, asking questions, his face full of curiosity and genuine interest. He wants to understand. He wants to know how they operate and, more importantly, how they manage to continue helping so many people, despite the lack of resources. The residents, at first skeptical, begin to take notice. They start whispering, their eyes widening as they realize who just walked in. Some think it's a publicity stunt. Others are unsure if it's even real. But as they watch, the truth becomes clear. Bill Gates is here, not for the cameras, but because he genuinely wants to be a part of this experience. As Bill Gates continues to walk around the shelter, speaking with staff and residents, the reactions from those present are a mix of disbelief and cautious curiosity. Some of the residents stand back, unsure of what to make of the situation. For many of them, the idea of someone like Bill Gates stepping into their world is almost unfathomable. They've spent so much of their lives feeling invisible, unnoticed by the larger society. And here is this man, someone who has everything, standing before them. But slowly, the barrier starts to break. Bill begins speaking to individuals in the shelter, asking them about their lives, their experiences, and their hopes for the future. A middle-aged woman, who's been at the shelter for a few weeks, nervously steps forward. She looks at Bill with wide eyes, her voice trembling slightly as she speaks. You don't have to do this. People like you don't come here, she says, glancing around the room. You're probably used to fancy dinners and events, not this. Bill looks at her with a sincere expression. I'm here because I want to understand, he says calmly. Everyone has a story, and the woman, still skeptical, starts to relax. She begins to open up, sharing the struggles she's faced in her life. Losing her job, falling behind on bills, and eventually being forced to live on the streets. Her words come out slowly at first, but then they flow more freely as Bill continues to listen intently. He doesn't interrupt, doesn't offer empty words of comfort. He simply listens. A few other residents begin to approach, encouraged by the genuine kindness Bill is showing. One man, who has been living at the shelter for a couple of months, speaks up. I've been through a lot, he says. I didn't know where to turn when I lost everything. I ended up here, and I thought I was just another statistic. But this place, these people, are helping me turn things around. I just need a chance. Bill nods thoughtfully. You deserve that chance, he says. By now, the atmosphere in the room has shifted. The tension that initially existed between Bill and the residents has evaporated. They can see that he's not here for a photo opportunity or a quick handshake. He's here because he genuinely cares. After spending time speaking with the residents and staff, Bill Gates quietly steps aside for a moment. He looks around the shelter, taking in everything. The worn furniture, the donated supplies stacked in the corner, the volunteers moving quickly to serve meals. The place is buzzing with activity, but there's an underlying sense of struggle that's hard to ignore. Bill then takes out his phone. He scrolls through a few messages before looking up at the shelter's director, who has been guiding him through the tour. Without hesitation, he says, I'd like to make a donation, a large one. It's the least I can do to help you keep doing this work. The director is stunned, momentarily speechless. A donation? She repeats, barely able to grasp what Bill is saying. Are you sure? Bill smiles warmly, his eyes sincere. Yes, I've seen what you do here. I've heard the stories, and I know that you need more support. You shouldn't have to worry about funding while you're trying to save lives. He pauses for a moment, looking around at the people who've been working tirelessly to help those in need. I'll make sure you have the resources to keep this place running, and to expand it, if necessary. These people deserve a future. They deserve more than just the basics. As he speaks, he types out a message and presses send. The director's phone buzzes. When she checks, her jaw drops. A donation of several $1 million has just been transferred to the shelter's account. Tears well up in her eyes as she looks up at Bill. I don't know what to say, she whispers, overwhelmed by the gesture. Bill simply shrugs, as though it's the most natural thing in the world. You don't have to say anything. You've been doing the hard work. It's time for people like me to step up and make sure it continues. The residents, who have been quietly watching the exchange, are now completely stunned. They exchange glances, some with wide eyes, others wiping away tears. For many of them, this moment is not just about a large donation. It's about the validation that they matter, that they are worthy of attention and worthy of help. Word of Bill's donation spreads quickly through the shelter. Residents and staff alike are talking in hushed tones, still processing the reality of what just happened. It's hard to grasp that someone like Bill Gates, someone with billions, would care so deeply about their struggles. To them, it's almost surreal. For the residents, this gesture is more than just financial support. It's a message. It's the kind of message that brings a sense of dignity to people who have often felt ignored or overlooked. It's a reminder that even in the darkest times, there are people out there who care, who are willing to make a difference. As the evening unfolds, Bill continues to engage with the people around him. He sits with a few residents in the common area, listening to their stories. One woman, who has been living in the shelter for several months, shares her dreams of starting a small business once she's back on her feet. She talks about how she's been working on a resume and applying for jobs, but it's been difficult to get hired because of her time away from the workforce. Bill encourages her. You've got the right mindset. That's the first step. Don't let anything hold you back from that dream. I believe you can do it. Another man, who has struggled with addiction for years, speaks up. He talks about how he's been in and out of rehab, but this time feels different. He's determined to get clean, to rebuild his life. Bill nods thoughtfully. You've got a second chance, and I'm glad to hear that you're using it. Keep going. One step at a time. The power of this interaction is felt by everyone in the room. Bill Gates isn't just a figurehead with money. He's a real person, talking to them like equals, offering words of encouragement and support. In that moment, the residents feel seen. They feel heard. And for Bill, this is more than just a visit. It's an opportunity to remind people that no matter their circumstances, they can always keep pushing forward. It's a reminder that a small act of kindness, a few words of encouragement, can go a long way. As the evening comes to a close, Bill Gates prepares to leave. The atmosphere in the shelter has shifted, with a newfound sense of hope and gratitude filling the air. The staff, who have been working tirelessly all day, are still processing the weight of what just happened. The residents are quietly reflecting on the encounter with Bill, the billionaire who took the time to listen, to connect, and to make an impact that no one expected. Before he leaves, Bill stands in front of the group of residents and staff one last time. The director of the shelter stands beside him, still in awe of the donation and the impact it will have on their work. There's a soft, yet powerful moment of silence as everyone gathers around. Bill looks at the group, his voice filled with sincerity. I hope that my visit today has reminded you of something important. You are all deserving of opportunities. You have value, and I'll be doing everything I can to support this shelter so it can continue to make a difference. He pauses, his eyes scanning the room, meeting the eyes of the residents who have gathered there. This place is more than just a shelter. It's a place where people can rebuild their lives. And I believe in that. With that, Bill smiles warmly, nodding toward the director, and begins walking toward the door. The staff and residents stand there, watching him leave. Some wave goodbye. Others watch silently, still processing the incredible turn of events. As the doors close behind him, a sense of peace settles over the shelter. The staff feels a renewed sense of purpose, and the residents feel like they've been given something precious, a little bit of hope, and a reminder that change is possible. The days following Bill Gates' visit to the shelter are filled with conversations, reflections, and a tangible shift in the community. The donation that was made has provided the shelter with resources to expand their services. New programs are being put in place to support residents as they transition into stable housing and employment. The emotional impact of the visit is felt by everyone involved, but it doesn't end there. Bill's visit sparks a ripple effect. Other high-profile figures and philanthropists begin to take notice, and many start to reach out to the shelter to offer their own support. Some offer donations, while others offer their time, volunteering, and helping to organize events to raise awareness. For the residents, this visit represents more than just a financial boost. It's a sign that the world is paying attention, that people care, that they are worthy of support, just like anyone else. The impact of that realization is immeasurable. It's a reminder that no matter how difficult life becomes, there are people who will step forward to help make a difference. Bill Gates may have walked out of the shelter that evening, But the legacy of his visit will stay with the people there for years to come. The shelter is now more than just a safe haven for those in need. It's a beacon of hope, showing that even in the darkest of times, there is always a chance for change.